mean, a title shot, not too surprised, but you know, I'll face that shit when I get there. You know, we just saw a champ handling himself like a clown once again, but you know, the Euros, Rob again was a big on in the cage, and for me it was one of the biggest moments of mine, not only career but life.
Thank you for joining us, Dricus. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Good, great to be here.
We're looking up to you. You motivate and inspire most of us. But people who sing Dricus today, where did it all start?
Yeah, I think in this career, a lot of people know me now in terms of just because I'm fighting on the biggest stage in the world and with the title fight coming up. But you know, this started as a little boy. I started with judo, and I've been involved with martial arts since I was 5 years old. When I started taking it really seriously, when I was about 14, 15, it was, you know, I was just a kid watching the karate movies, watching all these movies, watching videos on the internet, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I started fighting amateur, just kickboxing and doing jiu-jitsu, and you know, just loving it. And you know, when I started competing as an amateur, I really did great, and I loved it. And I said one day I'd like to do this professionally.
And for you to be there where you are, it needed a lot of discipline.
Yes, 100%. This just like any other sport, I believe it's, you know, if you want to be the best, you have to, you know, outwork everybody, and you have to go through, especially in this sport, because it's not such a mainstream sport, especially at that stage, where you just get opportunities. You had to go and work for it. So it was about doing whatever it takes to make it, because you know, we need to get it financially. It's not like, if you look at a rugby or soccer or cricket, if you're really good and you get, and you start playing for a provincial side, you know, you're earning money. With this, even as a professional in South Africa, it's really hard to make a living. And there was about, you know, it's about the platform you have in South Africa, using that to be able to go and fight in the big organizations and, you know, ultimately get to the UFC. And that was always the dream. I mean, it's a hard road to get to the top, to where I am right now. But you know, this opens up, somebody had to be first. Well, not first, I wasn't the first one, but I was the first one to be as successful as I am now. And the pioneers, the guys who, 2-3 guys in South Africa that went before me, obviously weren't so successful, but they opened up that door and they showed that it is possible. But with me, you know, being #1 ranked middleweight in the world right now, gives a sense of hope to people that are training, that look at where I can go without leaving South Africa. Without, you know, if you are in South Africa and you're training in a gym here, we have this facility right here in Pretoria, and this is where I've always trained. I've never had another gym. This has been my team, my coach, and this is what we have. This is what we can accomplish. And also, this opens up a door for so many other fighters, because now the UFC looks at us and say, listen, these guys have something. Now we have myself, we have Cameron, who's also doing great things. Cameron Simon, and all the same coach, all the same team, same facility, and right here at home. And I think that gives hope to every other young up-and-coming fighter that they can go all the way and become a world champion.
Sometimes you look at it and be mistaken as a European, not coming from Africa. How does that feel, Dricus, where you are mistaken that maybe you're coming from England and not from the African continent?
Oh, my man, that's really not great. I mean, did you watch the Rugby World Cup? Please don't make me be English. I'm a Springbok. I'm a Bok. 100%. But it is, I mean, it's the rest of the world. It's always funny to people when I say, and they just say, so where are you from? I say South Africa, and it's almost, especially like American people and all over the world where I go, and they look at me and they say, what do you mean? I go, are you born there? I said, yes. And they say, did your parents move there? And I said, no, my parents were born there. My grandparents were born there. Like as far as I know, like 5 generations ago, was born in South Africa. We are South African. I don't know anything else.
And when you started, you know, you're talking, this is UFC. This is the ultimate goal. Yes. But you started somewhere. Yeah. How was your record there? Because some people might not have seen you fight there. But it's not like you just rock up and you become UFC champion.
Yes, 100%. I think so. I started very young. At a stage, I was the youngest title challenger in the UFC history, and I was the youngest fighter at that stage in the UFC history. I was 19, and so my record in the UFC, I only lost once in my career in the UFC up until I would say. In the UFC, I had over 12, 13 fights. I was 13-1 in the. No, I think I was 12-1 in EFC. 12 wins, 1 loss, and that loss was when I was 20 years old for the first title fight. I lost that fight, and then I became champion later, and eventually became a double division champion in 2 weight classes, and then moved over to Europe. Over there, I became champion, and I lost 1 fight in Europe. So that's the only 2 losses I've had on my record. And now in the UFC, I'm 6 wins and 0 losses, and I'm fighting for the world title next. So, I mean, I think those losses were great. I don't think you can go your whole career and not take a loss. That is, in this game, so many things that can go right and wrong, and there's a little bit of luck mixed in there and bad luck mixed in there, and some days you just have to make sure and learn from those losses. That's the important thing. And after every loss, those 2 losses, I think I really needed them, because just every time I took those 2 losses, put me on a new path and just motivate me to be better and see what's the mistakes that we made. So it's I wouldn't even call it a loss. I would just call it a learning curve.
Look, the learning curve. Here you are, Robert Whittaker. Some people were not expecting you to win that fight. Here you're going to fight Sean. Is this a step up?
I don't think Sean is a step up in Robert Whittaker. I think Sean Strickland is an incredible fighter. He's the world champion for a reason. I think Robert Whittaker, if you go look at his record, he's only lost in the last 10 years was to the champion. He's never lost, and that was Israel Adesanya at the stage. He's never lost to anybody else up until I beat him. And that was a big statement. Like you said, it's not a lot of people, nobody thought that I could win that fight, except for South Africans. And even they were a bit nervous. And Hulle weet nie wat ons weet, And I went out there and I performed, and I knew I could beat Robert Whittaker. My team knew, my family knew, and there was quite a lot of supporters that knew I could do it. But it was, the odds were stacked against me, and that's what I'm saying is odds don't make fights, fighters make fights. I don't care about being an underdog and how good he has been and how good he did against that guy and this guy who he beat. He has to beat me, and that's a challenge in itself.
But people are saying you are facing the animal here. They think that you are going up against this guy his fighting style is awkward. You spoke about that, and do you feel that this guy can be very awkward? Yeah,
he has a very awkward fighting style, and listen, like I said, he is the #1 in the world for a very, very good reason. He's an extremely good fighter, he's a tough fighter, but I mean, it's the UFC, it's fighting the best of the best, and that's what you can expect. And even though he is strong and he is awkward, I'll be stronger and I'll be faster and I'll be even more awkward. And that's what it's about. It's about showing up on the night. And yes, he is extremely good, and that's why he has a world title. But that's what this is about. It's about going out there and being better in every single aspect.
What does it take to be at the level where you are now?
What does it take?
Yeah, someone watching wants to understand. What does it take, Dricus?
It takes extreme love for what you do, extreme passion. That's the #1. Without that, there's no way you'll make it to the top. If you're after money, if you're after fame, if you're after anything else, then love for this sport, because the money and the fame and all that kind of stuff comes way later. It takes many, many years and a lot of wins and a lot of luck and a lot of grind and a lot of tough days and tough years before you get to that. It takes the passion that you have for the sport. It's the most important thing. And then, it's almost an understanding of what it means to give up every single thing for the sport. It's a very, very selfish sport. It's a very selfish life, because everything has to revolve around it. Everything you do, you have to take your career in consideration, especially in building up to get to the top. Every opportunity you have to be able to take, you have to grab every single small opportunity you get. And sometimes the opportunity just doesn't come, but you have to stay positive, you have to stay focused and work with what you've got. If you don't get the call from the bigger organizations, the only thing you can do, you can't worry about that, is fight in the small organization, keep on going, keep on winning, even though you're not getting the money you want, even though you're struggling to get by. It's about, sticking it out, and the discipline is absolutely, it's not even, we can't even discuss it. It's about, you have to really, your whole life needs to revolve around this, and you need a solid team. You have, your friends, your family, and if you don't have that, you have to be on your own, and you have to keep, even if nobody supports your dream, you have to keep on going for it, and that's how I got to where I am. I have an incredible family of people that were supporting me, and to get where I am right now didn't seem possible. In fact, it seemed kind of like, to most people, I remember even locally when I was a champion, a double champion, people would say, listen, Dricus is good, but he can't compete with the guys in the UFC. He's not close to their level. And I win my first UFC fight, and they say, okay, well, that was cool, lucky, but if he gets to the top 10, top 15 guys, he won't last. Get my first top 15 win, they say, cool, anybody in the top 10 will smoke him, get top 10, get top 5, and now I just beat number 1. And it's fun, it's motivating, it's great, because every time they say you can't do it and you do it, it makes all the hard work worth it.
Do you listen to the criticism though?
Depending on from who it is. For me, every guy on the street thinks he can fight. Every guy on Facebook thinks he can fight. I promise you they can't fight. And taking it from who it is. If my coach criticizes me, I listen, because he criticizes and it's constructive criticism. He wants me to be better. So he sees something, I believe it. I believe in my coach. Coach Munafasa, he got me here. Without him, I wouldn't be here. Everything he says, I go, I listen, I think about it, and I try to be better. If my father gives me criticism, I listen, and I try to be better, and because he's somebody, I trust his opinion. And that's what I said with having a great team around you. When my brothers gives criticism, we can negotiate on it, but it's some people, the opinion matter to me. But every guy on Facebook that tells me that I'm not as good or I'm going to lose, no, I don't listen to that criticism.
Those who love you and support you, it looks like they're already looking beyond Sean. Can we look beyond that? Is it unfair?
It's a fair question to ask, listen, if you become champion, what's next? I'm not too fond of that, because it feels like we are talking past Sean Strickland. It feels to me always, even when me and Whittaker were supposed to fight, people weren't even too bothered with myself and Whittaker's fight. They were just going on about me and Adesanya. That's what they wanted, because the winner would fight, but they already wanted me and Adesanya to fight. So most of the question was about me and Adesanya, and I said, listen guys, Adesanya is not even in my mind right now. Nobody is on my mind right now, other than the champion. He's the target, he is the guy who has the belt, and he is the only person and the only obstacle that I'm focused on, is this fight right now. I don't care what happens after that fight. What happens, the only thing I care about right now is 20 January and becoming the world champion and beating Sean Strickland.
You're not even thinking about Adesanya at the moment?
Not at all. Not at all.
Were you surprised? Were you given enough time, so to speak, to prepare for Sean? Or was it something that came to you as a surprise?
Yeah, it came to me as a surprise, because obviously they after the Adesanya fight, the whole division, after Sean beat Adesanya, the whole division was in turmoil. So obviously they were, I don't know, they weren't angry, but they gave somebody else, they wanted to give somebody else the shot because I couldn't fight Adesanya. But then, things always work out the way they should. And they phoned me and said, listen, will I be ready for January? And I mean, before the rest of the world knew about this fight, I found out the day before that we might get the fight. And the next day they announced it. So that was great. I was ecstatic. I mean, I had enough time to prepare. We had, I think they let me know 10 weeks from the fight, maybe 3 weeks ago. So yeah, I mean, we're in fight camp. I'm feeling great. So yeah, timing was perfect, and I was extremely happy with the opportunity.
That's the 20th of January in Toronto, right?
Yes, in Toronto, Canada.
You are a farmer, an avid farmer. I just want to take you away from the MMA and all the nonsense. But we got a big issue in this country. That's farm murders. What is your take on that? Is there a solution?
Yes, there's a solution, but in my opinion, there's no way to find a solution before we can admit, firstly, and identify the problem. I think it's the only place in the world where it's so normal. I think, and it's actually disgusting to see how little, firstly, the authorities, the people that have the ability to help with this problem, the real people with the power, how little they care about this. It's disgusting and it's shocking to see, because people are worrying about, listen, I'm no politician, not by any means. I'm not nearly smart enough to be a politician, but this is just talking about it, and it's great that it is something that is being talked about. I talked about it in my very first UFC fight, because I had this international stage. At that stage, I wasn't close even to being to where I am now in terms of how well known I was, but just to try and be a voice for the people who, it almost seems like it's falling on deaf ears. Nobody cares. And what the outside world sees, how the media makes it, it's almost like it's not that bad. You understand what I'm saying? And for me to go out and to tell the world that, listen, it's a very real problem we have in this country. The people that are feeding this whole nation are being murdered on a daily basis in the most horrific ways. And don't tell me farmers are being murdered because people are hungry. Farmers are being murdered and nothing will be stolen. This is hate crimes. It's easy targets because the authorities aren't doing anything about it, because we don't have that infrastructure. There's not enough attention on it. There's not enough people that, farms are isolated areas. So it's, who's going to be there? Who's going to, and right now, as a communities, the farming communities standing together and taking the job over from the police, because they're not doing their jobs. They're not catching anybody. If you go look at the figures of murders versus the figures of cases that are being solved, I mean, it's mind-blowing. And we have such a beautiful and amazing country in South Africa. I love this place. I would never ever, there's no place on earth I'd rather be living or be born in than South Africa. I love this place. I'm extremely proud to be a South African. And like I said, 100% there's a solution. But before we can find any solution, we need to accept and admit that there's a problem and get on the same page of what it's going to take to fix it. And we struggle with electricity, we struggle with water everywhere in this country. No matter if you're rich, if you're poor, not even talking about skin color at all. And that's one thing that's also with farm murders. As soon as if you speak to some people, obviously that doesn't know anything about anything, as soon as you say farm murders, they go, white. It's about some race against another race. It's not at all. You know how many black farmers we have, how many white farmers we have, colored farmers we have. Do you think only white farmers get murdered? No. Do you think only black farmers get murdered? No. It's farmers. It's the people that produce the food in this country. It's the people that's feeding our nation. And as a nation, we need to stick together and actually go on our knees and thank these people, because without these people, this country is doomed. And I feel it's our responsibility as South Africans to look after each other and look after this beautiful nation that we have.
Are you hopeful?
100% I am. Absolutely. We have, like I said, hulle weet nie wat ons weet nie. We have something so special in our hearts as South Africans, as a nation, that it can't be stopped. We have a fire that nobody can stop. We have a fire, we have a will to overcome, if you look at what we have overcome as a nation. But this is the most amazing place to live in, and I wouldn't live anywhere else.
I respect your thinking, but why is it not happening, Dricus, to arrest this murder that is... Should you hit the octagon with a t-shirt that stops farm murder, will we be in trouble?
I will definitely be in trouble. I'll be in so much trouble if I do that. They are very strict on that. But I can make something happen.
We are waiting for that. We are seeing you guys, maybe we might see some of you, the winds of change in Saudi Arabia. You have seen a lot happening there in sport-wise. They're hosting boxing and stuff like that. What's your feeling about what's happening in that part of the world?
It's amazing. I mean, that's why my first UFC fight was in Abu Dhabi, and you know, the Middle East. It's just constantly. I mean, if you just look at a business point of view and just everything that play, it feels like it's a new development the whole time. It's incredible, and you know, like you said, boxing, MMA. They have organizations there. They are investing in the big organizations like PFL. They just got invested. A company invested from the Middle East in the PFL, which is probably the second biggest organization in the world right now. No, even locally, you know, they're investing in all over the world, and it's cool to see. I'm curious to see where it's going. I'm curious to see because, you know, if you look at soccer, sports, all of it, I mean, it's pretty remarkable what they're doing over there.
And Sean doesn't have to go on the ground with you, Dricus. I think you're going to manhandle him.
That's great.
He talks too much. Is that how you sell tickets? Is that how you sell the fight?
I have to say, you know, I've met Sean in person before. He's a very, very nice guy. He's a very nice guy. But you know, he's a clown act, like, because he's always, you know, he's being funny, and I think that's a big mistake that his opponents make, just because he's also always being silly and you know, saying controversial things, like extremely controversial things that most would get cancelled for. Yeah, I got to respect the guy for that. You know, he's true to himself, and I like that about somebody. And I have only nothing but respect for him. And I think the mistake that people make with Sean is just because he acts like that, they don't take him seriously. They think he's not a fighter. He's not a serious fighter. But when he gets into that ring, he's a serious fighter. So don't let the persona fool you into thinking he's not a serious fighter. And that's something I'll never do. I've never underestimated any one of my opponents, and I won't underestimate him ever.
I think you and I can have this conversation forever, Dricus. Yes. And I'm happy that you gave us the opportunity to come and meet you here in Pretoria. And I must say, we'll see you in Toronto.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about something that's very near to my heart in farm matters and our beloved nation. And you know, we have an amazing country, and we the people need to prosper it, and we need to help each other prosper, and we have to, you know, keep this country and keep this love we have for each other, and keep this amazing fire that South Africans have in our hearts, and make this place great, because it can be.
Dricus, it's been great chatting to you. That was Dricus Du Plessis, the best MMA fighter in the continent and the world. And BGTN was invited here to talk to the champ. Join him as he fights in January 2024 in Toronto.
Yeah.